And we're back. Professor, we were just doing a react to Professor Zhang, and I think, and I apologize, Christian, if you catch the live. I think I missed one of your super chats. You could holler back at me. You don't have to pay again, of course. But we were reacting to Zhang just earlier, just hours ago. And 4 days ago, Professor Zhang said, watch the water, watch the strikes on the water. And this is Professor Zhang. The headline news that we're going to talk about is literally hours after we watch him talk about this 4 days ago. There are headlines now that, I don't know if they're confirmed, reported out of Iran that they accused the United States of striking freshwater desalination plant in Qeshm Island and said water service for 30 villages was disrupted. This is the professor, if you don't know.
Popular YouTube channel, Predictive History. He uses game theory to analyze past, current, and to predict future geopolitical events. And
I was a math major, believe it or not, in another lifetime. Don't ask me to do a derivative or anything calculus at this point, but it was another lifetime. But game theory is basically just probability, but against an opponent. So it's probability. It's not static probability, like if you roll a dice, 1 out of 6, you'll pick the number right. It's more you're rolling a die and someone else is rolling a die and they're trying to knock your die off. It's combative in a game form probability, so it's ever changing. And he uses that he calls it predictive history to predict the future. Elon Musk is absolutely right. He says, basically, Elon Musk says the most powerful AI tool is going to be the one that can predict the future. So that's why the TikTok algorithm was so good. It could actually predict what you wanted to see at what time of day, when, depending on your mood, because it had all the data. He had a much more substantive prediction on a macro scale.
And he joins us now. Professor, great to have you.
Good to see you, sir.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. So, for people who aren't familiar with your work, I wanted to show folks that back in 2024, you made 3 big predictions. 1, that Trump would win. 2, that he would start a war with Iran. And 3, that the U.S. would lose that war. Let's take a listen to that.
In this class this semester, I'm making 3 big predictions, right? First is that Trump will win in November. Second is that the United States will go to war against Iran. And the third big prediction is that the United States will lose this war, which will forever change the global order.
So obviously that last one is the only one that has not yet come to fruition. Is quite a stunning prediction. Do you stand by it, and what have you seen so far that leads you to sort of stand firm in that conclusion?
So given my analysis of how the war is progressing, I think that Iran has many more advantages over the United States. The reality is that right now, it's a war of attrition between the United States and Iran.
That's assuming nukes are not on the table, though, I would assume.
And the Iranians have been preparing 20 years for this conflict. In their eschatology, in their religion, this is a war against the great Satan. They've had many practice runs. Last June was a 12-day war when the Iranians were able to examine and analyze the strike capacities.
Remember, we were talking about that. They were analyzing it. And to get more into the story of today, the story today is that there was allegedly, who knows because of the war and propaganda, but it looks like the U.S. just bombed a water plant. And that's the exact escalation that he was talking about. And this is Qeshm Island. It was 30 villages disrupted. The Gulf dependence over there on desalination is real because they're by saltwater. And an Arab Center analysis says the GCC Gulf states operate more than 400 desalination plants and produce about 40% of the world's desalinated water. Official sources also use different measures. The UAE government says that desalination provides 42% of potable water. Potable water. Qatar's statistical office says desalination is the main source of drinking water. And a U.S. government Saudi market guide says, I don't know how to pronounce it, Riyadh plants to meet 90% of water demand with desalinated water by 2030. So this looks like a direct infrastructure. I don't know what happened. Who knows if Iran did it? I mean, that was kind of the thought, was that Iran would potentially do it. Who knows? International humanitarian law, whatever that means, gives special protection to drinking water installations and other objects indispensable to civilian survival. If the Qeshm facility was intentionally targeted as a civilian object or hit in a way that failed distinction, how would you even know that? There's no way to tell that. If they did it purposely or did it without trying to distinguish between what was a water plant and what wasn't, the legal and diplomatic consequences are serious. I don't know what that really means. I don't really believe in international law. International law is nothing. Countries have laws, but internationally, countries do what they have the power to do. Countries don't have rights. Ramifications: Gulf monarchies now have more incentive to limit any visible role in attacks launched from their territory. Iran has said neighboring states would be spared unless attacks came from their soil. So that makes Bahrain, Qatar, the UAE, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia feel more exposed, whether or not they publicly admit it. Human beings built glittering skylines and on a desalinated water life support system, and then parked a regional war right next to it. That was that's actually AI getting creative with the writing. That's from the sources Pakistan Today on that breaking news just from within the last hour or so, from what I've seen. So the danger sits in operational precedent. Once the water systems are described as a part of a target set, like legitimate targets, the conflict moves from military attrition to direct pressure on civilian life. Reuters has already reported heavy disruption from strikes on airports, ports, hotels, and data centers. A major hit on Gulf desalination would add drinking water, sanitation, and public order to the escalation ladder. Then the economy gets really bad. The economic fallout gets worse fast. Reuters says oil prices are up more than 25% since the war began. Around 1/5 of global crude and gas supply has been suspended. Tanker traffic through the Strait of Hormuz fell to zero by Wednesday, and 70% of the GCC food imports moved through that corridor. A water infrastructure scare on top of that would magnify everything: the fuel, the shipping, the food stress across the region. I think the takeaway here is the bigger story is not just this local damage. It just shows that water plants are now closer to the center of the war, just like Professor Zhang predicted. And Gulf capitals are going to have to calculate against a future where desalination is treated as the way refineries are, oil refineries, ports are treated. Strategic warning in the Post is credible. So I think there's credible concern here with the water crisis potentially over in the Middle East.
Of both the Israelis and the Americans, and they've had a lot of time, 8 months, to prepare fully for this new attack. They, through their proxies, the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Shia militias, have been able to really grasp the American mentality, and now they have a pretty good strategy of how to weaken and ultimately destroy the American empire.
Yeah, we're telegraphing things too. It's too obvious what we're doing. And great friend of the show, Jordan Lott, says, hello, brother libertarian. Dave Smith went hard after J.D. Vance and Tulsi Gabbard. Yeah, he's been crashing out on Trump Gabbert, Vance. I didn't hear the Gabbert one recently, but I'm not surprised. I didn't hear the Vance one either, actually. I have to look back at that. But I know about the Trump one. Because now I'm thinking about the Peter Thiel implications, because Dave Smith hasn't talked about Peter Thiel much, but if you're going after J.D. Vance, you're basically going after Thiel. So that is a huge development. I'll look to see if I can see that, find that. We need to, Jordan Locke continues, we need to totally party with Dr. Shiva, our homie. Dr. Shiva Ayadore, our homie. Let's go. Thanks for stopping by. Christian, I missed your super chat, I believe. He's Chinese, he's lying. You know what? I've dealt with a lot of Chinese just coming up in school. I did go to University of Michigan in the math kind of department, a lot of Asians. This is not they don't lie when it comes to math. They will lie and cheat, and like as far as like the calculations of math, they don't lie for that. For these probabilities, that's not a lie. I don't think it's a lie. They will lie, cheat, and steal to get ahead, like to get an A or whatever on a test. They'll have somebody do the work for them, but they don't mess around with the accuracy of numbers and probability. But he could be right. I mean, he could be a part of the propaganda. Who knows? But what he's saying makes sense to me.
There's a contract.
What he says makes sense to me as we go through the YouTube ad here.
The Iranians are doing is they're waging war against the entire global economy. And so they are striking the GCC countries. And not only are they striking GCC countries, American bases, but they're going after the critical energy infrastructure of these bases. They blocked off the Strait of Hormuz. And eventually, they will go after the water desalination plants, which is the lifeblood of these nations because they don't have fresh water supply. In fact,
so this is where he's talking about the water, and the attack. Just to keep in mind, it's an Iranian territory that got attacked, but that means all the water right now is. I mean, even if it was an accident, they could say, "Well, we're going to take out somebody else's. We're eye for an eye, and we'll stop until we see more."
The water desalination plants provides 60% of the GCC's water supply. So if a drone, and these drones cost $50,000, if they wiped out a desalination plant in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and it's a city of 10 million people, right? They'd be out of water in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks. And right now, the Iranians have de facto closed off the Strait of Hormuz, and the GCC gets 90% of its food from the Strait of Hormuz. So I know a lot of people are talking about the disruptions to the global economy, but right now, the Iranians are actually threatening the very existence of Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, Qatar. And why this is important is that the Gulf states are really the linchpin of the American economy. So what they do is they sell petrodollars and then they recycle the petrodollars back into the American economy through the investments in the stock market. And right now we know that the entire American economy is propped up by AI investments in data centers. And a lot of that comes from the Gulf states. So if the Gulf states are no longer able to sell oil, and they're no longer able to finance AI, this AI bubble in the United States, then this AI bubble will burst, and with it will burst as well the entire American economy, which is really a financial Ponzi scheme.
Right.
So that's a dire situation that the Americans are facing right now.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, sir, an Amazon data center was literally hit in the UAE. And now, of course, big tech companies, which were looking at the UAE as a major potential data center investment hub with cheap and abundant energy, probably going to be rethinking that. We also wanted to talk to you about munitions. We can put this next one up here on the screen. The United States is racing to accomplish Iran mission before munitions run out. This is specifically around interceptor math. There's a famous video just from yesterday in Israel, which shows a single Iranian ballistic missile, which is being targeted by some 11 different interceptors, all of which miss. Most of those come from the United States, not to mention all of the different bases, the GCC countries that you just talked about, and the asymmetry of the cost. It's $1 million for a missile, tens of millions per interceptor in some of these cases. With these munitions running out, how does that change the global picture? So you're in China, obviously, much of the stocks in Asia of the United States are likely to have to be cannibalized if this were to go on. How's that going to affect the global picture here?
Right. So my first point.
Interesting. We're getting some feedback here that Professor Zhang is a fool. So is this from the MAGA coalition, or is it a impartial take on it? I'm open to all takes. I don't know much about him other than just watching a couple of his shows. He's got stuff on education. He breaks down things brilliant. Yeah, I don't think he's a fool, but I'm open to something more tangible to challenge him. Absolutely.
Is that the United States military is not designed to fight a 21st century war. Remember, the military-industrial complex came to being after World War II, and it was designed to fight the Cold War. And the Cold War was really about muscle flexing, about who was able to send people up into space, who was the first to get the person on the moon, who had the more complex missile systems. And so the entire American military strategy revolves around very sophisticated technology that costs a lot of money to build. And that's what the American air defense system is basically. And that's why we're seeing this asymmetry, as you point out, in this war, where you have these $1 million missiles trying to take out these $50,000 drones. And it's not sustainable in the long term. And so what we're seeing is really the puncturing of the aura of invincibility and invisibility that sustained American hegemony for the past 20 years, especially after the collapse of the Soviet Union. And this is really a reordering of not just the global economy, because this signals the collapse of the petrodollar, and with it, the entire US dollar-based reserve currency system, but also the global hegemony of the United States. We're moving towards a multipolar world.
Professor, this morning, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth was asked a question about potential ground troops in Iran. He refused to rule out that possibility. And he said, oh, well, we're not going to project to you what we will or will not do, but we don't want to, rule anything out. We will do what it takes. Do you think that America will end up invading Iran from the ground, since it's already becoming relatively clear they won't be able to accomplish the goal of regime change or even regime collapse using just air power alone?
Right. So everyone says that the worst calamity that could happen in the United States is if it were to send ground troops into Iran. At the same time, the United States are committed to regime change in Iran. We've never had a precedent in history where you were able to regime change from the air alone. You need ground troops. And so unfortunately, what's going to happen over the next few months is that pressure will build on America to send ground troops, especially from the GCC countries and from Israel, which are being pounded right now by the Iranians. So remember that if the GCC countries, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, Bahrain, if they go, then the petrodollar goes with them. So the Americans need to protect these countries, and these countries are going to demand that either the Americans bribe the Iranians to cease, and this is like $5 trillion in indemnity, okay? Mm-hmm. Or send ground troops to wipe out the Iranian threat once and for all. And I know that there's no political will for ground troops to be used against Iran among the American people. But remember,
I don't know about that. I think they can do that. What's going to stop? What would stop them? Nobody's going to really stop Trump if he does ground troops. I don't feel a strong push against it, so I don't agree with that. I think he could if he wanted to.
That 78% of American people was against initial strikes against Iran in the first place.
Right. And one of the things that really comes into question...
And he still did it. And there's no threat of anything, like as far as political threat. There's no threat of impeachment or even any strong questioning. There's people who are leaving the movement, but nothing really that's going to hurt him politically. And they've already given up on the midterms. They don't really care.
I think, with all of this, sir, when we're looking at the geopolitical picture and the sacrificing in much of this from the United States on behalf of Israel, is kind of a question as to who and what wanted this. We were actually curious for your view on a disputed report here from the Washington Post. We can put it up here on the screen, F3. A push from the Saudis. Israel helped move Trump to attack Iran. Now, this has been internally disputed by Saudi Arabia, saying that they did not push the Trump administration to attack Iran. However, this is clearly an authorized leak from our own government, trying to at least lay some of the blame on behalf of the GCC. What do you make of this analysis and of this narrative that Saudi Arabia was also trying to be behind this push to bomb Iran?
So I've always argued that both Saudi Arabia and Israel are heavily invested in regime change in Iran. In fact, Saudi Arabia sees Iran as much more of an existential crisis than Israel. Because remember, Israel still has nuclear weapons, and Israel is a very diverse, very sophisticated economy, whereas Saudi Arabia is completely reliant on oil. And it's always had problems with Iran because Iran is a theocracy opposed to the Saudi monarchy. Iran funds and equips the Houthis, which have been antagonistic towards Saudi Arabia for the longest time. And right now, the Saudi economy is suffering. It's been trying to pivot towards more of a tourist economy. That's why they brought in Ronaldo. That's why they're switching to e-gaming. That's why they're building something called a line, NEOM. And all these things are not working out. So they need to be able to control the oil resources of the entire Middle East if they are to survive and thrive as a nation. So I do believe that this reporting is credible, even though it does make Saudi Arabia look bad. But remember, Saudi Arabia says that they wanted peace, but they are helping the Israelis and the Americans attack Iran right now because they're allowing the Israelis and Americans to use Saudi airspace.
So help us understand, because it still feels to me like there's some pieces that don't totally add up. You had, in advance of this war on Iran, you had top military brass up to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff saying, this is a really bad idea. We are not ready for this. All the math on the interceptors that's been talked about for months at this point. And yet Trump still decided to go ahead. What is the calculus that he was making here that led him to take what already appears to be catastrophic actions?
Right. Okay. So this is the key question. Why do they do this? I think there are three possibilities. Okay. And I think all three possibilities are valid. The first is the idea of hubris. If you look at history, this is how empires behave. So the Mindoro kidnapping was quick, successful, and it was adrenaline rush for Trump. And that made him overconfident in the capacity of the American military.
I don't know if I buy that. I don't buy that. You think that they thought that they were going to do the same thing in Iran? The military industrial complex knows all about the Middle East. Obviously, they know how to get into these wars and stay in there and basically launder money and just live there and get a higher budget because they need to be there. There's no way you're going to sell me on maybe Donald Trump himself, but the military, the people who actually make these decisions and push Trump to do what he does, along with Israel, they know Iran is not the same as Venezuela. So I'm gonna do a strong, respectful, strong pushback here. That does not make sense.
Okay, so hubris is a factor, and we see this throughout history. Why did Hitler invade Stalin? Because he conquered Europe really easily, and he thought it was invincible, right? And that led to the destruction of the German army in the Soviet Union. So hubris is a factor. Then you have to look at internal political calculus, where even though America does not benefit from this war against Iran, Trump himself personally benefits. Why? Because the Saudis and the Israelis are bribing him to attack Iran. Remember that the Saudis invested $2 billion in the private equity fund of Jared Kushner, who is the son-in-law of Donald Trump. And the Israelis, through Miriam Adelson, have been financing Trump's political career, right? So Miriam Adelson...
Now, this is all correct. This is all goes right to the heart of it. Absolutely.
A few months back said that she will put up $250 million if Trump were to run a third term. So Trump is getting a lot of financial and political support from the Saudis and Israelis. Also remember that if this war goes sideways and Trump is forced to use ground troops, he will probably get approval from Congress, and this will give him emergency war powers, which will allow him to influence the midterms. So Trump is.
He's saying he's going to get approval through Congress. Why would he do that? Congress doesn't care because they don't have to put their vote on it, and Trump doesn't care. I don't see that happening. I don't think he's going to get any approval. And they're going to try to say it's the Kurds with maybe the American Special Forces or something supporting them. So they're not going to really say it's going to be Americans on the ground, but it's going to be Americans on the ground. Or they could even do this, what is the special contractors in Ukraine is basically U.S. troops on the ground.
He will probably get approval from Congress, and this will give him emergency war powers, which will allow him to influence the midterms. So Trump is thinking about a third term. And I think at the ballot box, he probably won't get it. But if there's a war going on and you can delay elections and you have emergency war power.
What he thinks the war is going to go on until 2028 is what he's saying? He has lost me there.
And people rally around the flag, then he probably will get a third term. And the last factor that is very important is the eschatological factor, where if you look at the Epstein files, it's clear that we are run by secret societies. It's clear that the world is run by these individuals who have a lot of power. We don't know who they are, but they control the military. They control the national security apparatus. And these people, there are different names for these people. You can call them the Illuminati. And the Illuminati are composed of three major groups, okay? You have the Jesuits, who control the Vatican. You have the Sephardim Frankists, which control the modern state of Israel today. And you have the Freemasons, which control the national security apparatus of the United States. And they believe that Israel, this war in the Middle East, is key to the end times in creating heaven on earth. So it's almost like a script that they're following, even though it doesn't make any geopolitical sense. Okay, so I would say that these three are the best reasons why this is happening.
Wow. Well, sir, I hope you come back. This was very informative, I think.
Yeah, that was a good hit on breaking points. I want to change over real quick before I go to. There's discussion online about whether there are people in Israel who are searching the real names of online influencers. And this is an example of one, a friend of show, Nico House. He's not suicidal. He loves his family. He just wants to make sure everybody knows that.
Let me just go ahead and say right now, ladies and gentlemen, I am not suicidal. I've gone to therapy. I love my life. I love my family. My family loves me. Nobody in my family would do anything to harm me. Why am I saying this? Because days after several of my videos have gone viral speaking about this war in Iran and Israel's part in it, I was Googled over 100 times in Israel. And I'm not sure if you are aware of this trend, but generally people who are suddenly Googled in Israel tend to end up dead within days, or they're implicated in some grand scandal or what could be considered a false flag attempt. To be clear, I have zero friends in Israel. I don't talk to Israelis. There is zero reason for Israel and Israelis to feel the need to Google me 100 times. Like, that is also a number extremely specific, because it's not like a video I did went viral there and then all of a sudden other people started Googling me. That wasn't the case. It was like, nope, we're going to specifically Google him 100 times. So once again, not suicidal. And if my death looks mysterious, it's because it is. I don't want to hear none of that Charlie Kirk shit whenever they gaslight Candace Owens. Just let him rest in peace. No, do not let me rest in peace. If y'all don't go find who the hell killed me, I'm coming after you. I'm haunting you, because I ain't going to rest in peace until y'all find the motherfucker that killed me. Letting y'all know right now.
So we're at the point where influencers have to say they're not suicidal. We're at the point. Carrie Prejean Bowler, she had to say, like, hey, I'm not suicidal. I just don't like Israel. We're at the point where everybody's having to do that. This dude here, Archetype Theory, he was one of the ones who said it. Now, there's debate on whether this search data is real or not. I'm not an expert on that or not, but I'm just giving you the chatter of what's happening out there. This website, this account has done some tweets that have gone viral and basically challenging Israel. And the person who's in charge of product at X reminds you a lot of Yoel Roth, who was the corrupt previous head of trust and safety under, I believe that was his title. We went deep dive with Yoel Roth on Yoel Roth, his history, very concerning stuff. But now we kind of transferred from one Jew, maybe a Jew on a different side or not, Yoel Roth, to another with Nikita Bayer, head of X Product. So head of X Product tweeted this guy, and this is another guy who, just like Nico House said, I looked on the search, and it looked like somebody searched me from Israel. That's kind of weird because you would think if they're in Israel, they would use a VPN or whatever to spoof where they're from. Because we've been talking about this since like some of the alleged assassination attempts is when I started seeing people looking at this. Oh, this person was Googled months before or something like that. But he's going back and forth with the head Jew, which is, and I'm not even trying to say that as a derogatory term or anything. It is relevant when we're talking about people who are challenging Jews. So if you're a Jew, that's relevant in this conversation. And it is relevant that we went from Jew to Jew. I think that's relevant too. But he messaged Archetype Theory, whose real name is not out there, and the messages are gone, and then he ghosted him. So the messages, I think Nikita Bayer was the first person to reach out and said, do you have any feedback that could make X better for you? And then he asked Nikita, did you type this or was this a bot? And you can kind of tell by the response, it didn't seem like it's a bot. So he's like, okay, I'll engage. And he asked Nikita Bayer, please check the post I tagged you in. I'm genuinely concerned. These posts about the searches that were being done. He's like, I'm genuinely concerned about these posts and the potential connections with an Israeli security firm that potentially has my information. To give more backdrop on that, let me actually go to Harrison from, what his name is? It Harrison Ford? I forgot his last name. Harrison from InfoWars. I have a clip from him to give you some more of the context of what's happening here. Harrison Smith. I said Harrison Ford. Harrison Smith. Here we go.
X users find their real names are being Googled in Israel after using X verification software called AU10TIX, AU10TIX. A wide range of anonymous X users have reported that their real names are suddenly being Googled in Israel shortly after they began criticizing the country for its actions in Palestine. Some connected the phenomenon to AU10TIX, the software X requires users, even anonymous ones, to use in order to verify their real identities. AU10TIX is a Israeli company founded and staffed by former Israeli spies from the elite Israeli military intelligence group Unit 8200. Mint Press News investigated this disturbing phenomenon. They're calling it, quote, the largest honeypot operation on the planet. Quote, I'm not even kidding when I say my full legal name, including my middle name, has been searched up in Israel 11 times in the past days, wrote Transfem POTUS, an anonymous X user who's been highly critical of Israel's actions.
There's quite a few of people. I think it's about 10 people I've seen. They're only going to target the top people. But Mike Drake says, influencer. I'm not suicidal. I love my family and they love me. Mossad. Damn, we can't off him now because he said that. That is such a good point. Like, is that what Mossad's gonna say? Damn. We were gonna off him or implicate him, But since he came out and said he wasn't suicidal, damn it, we can't do it now. Or is Messiah going to say, or is Messiah going to be like, okay, whatever. Rest in peace. I do. But you understand what else can the influencer do? The influencer can't do anything else. But it is a good point. It's like, what is Messiah going to do with that information? Like, damn it. We were going to get him, but now we can't. No, that's probably not how that works. If that's true, it could be paranoia. I fully admit that, but it's a great point. That's probably not how it works. They probably don't care. I'm just going to go out on the limb and say they don't care.
This was not an isolated incident either. Quote, so apparently my full legal name got searched for in Israel the other day, revealed the Atlantean 9, an anonymous far-left user with a Palestinian flag in their bio. Meanwhile, artist Bionico Bandito stated, quote, my full name got searched 100 times in Israel when I posted this, referring to a cartoon depicting associates of Jeffrey Epstein being executed. Across the world, from conservative Japanese accounts to American conspiracy theorists, anonymous users are reporting that data from Google Trends shows their real names, not divulged anywhere online, are being mass searched in Israel. Okay, so Google Trends has a function that you can tell how often something is searched and where it's searched from, right? And you can use this for widespread trends, right? You can watch how the Seahawks gets searched when they win a game, right? And you can see it spike up, and you can see, well, most of the searches were from this area, but some of them are from over here. And so X users are putting their own name in and going, who's searching my full name, right? And what they're finding is there are searches taking place in Israel, despite the fact that these people's full names are not published anywhere online. So what's happening is somebody in Israel is identifying anti-Israel accounts on X. They're reaching out to the X back end, either Authentics or, something like that. Yeah, I haven't been searched, I guess. Reaching out to them and saying, okay, here's the account. The account is, whatever, Bianco Bandito. Who is that? What is their real name and where do they live? And then they're using Google to search for that real name. So it appears as though X is helping Israel to unmask their enemies, basically.
Crazy. So that's what the user archetype theory was talking about, falling up into that. I don't know. We'll keep an eye on it. I'm not saying it's 100% definitive yet. I'm not there. But I think it's enough to keep an eye on, and I don't know what you're going to do. What am I going to do? I'm not suicidal. I love my family. My family loves me. I'm a peaceful person. I don't know what else you could do. I know it's kind of like purposeless. What's the purpose of that? But what else are you going to do, man? Mike, what are you going to do? It's one of those funny things that I understand why Nico House did it and everybody else is doing it. What didn't they do that to Virginia? What's her name from the Epstein? She did that. She wound up dead shortly after. Yeah, they don't care. It doesn't matter. Speaking of Epstein, we got reports today. I think it came today. I saw it today. Reports today that there's new information that show the guard, one of the Epstein guards, was searching Epstein and had suspicious cash deposits leading up to what Cash Patel and Dan Bongino say it was a suicide. Remember, Trump was president and Barr was attorney general. The files obtained by the New York Post reveal that guard Tova Noel, and I believe it's a black. Is that relevant or not? I don't know. I'll just note it for right now. Latest, actually, I'm going to say that is relevant. They are one of the most easily manipulated groups on the planet. Latest on Epstein in jail at 5:42 a.m. and 5:52 a.m. on August 10th, 2019. That was 40 minutes before her colleague discovered Epstein unresponsive. We don't know when they really found him, but it's right around that time. She did a Google search on it. Latest on Epstein in jail. So what was that about? That doesn't even lie. That's probably more damning than the money, because it's not a lot of money, but who knows if it was just part of it or what. But bank records flagged $11,880 in suspicious cash deposits to Noel's account from late 2018, including $5,000 just 11 days prior, while an FBI note linked her to a blurry orange shape on video near his tier the night before. Though federal probes upheld the suicide ruling amid staff negligence, these details have obviously fueled fresh online doubts about the official account of what happened. And you can't make this up. It's a black woman. And you just can't make the story up, man. Bunch of coincidences. You have somebody easily manipulatable, potentially. Don't have to pay them that much money. They don't even know who Epstein is, potentially. You know, you one of the most politically ignorant groups in our country. And then obedient at the same time. It's just a lot of questions. The article is from the New York Post. You can check that out if you want to deep dive into it more. But a lot of stuff coming from the Epstein files. I don't know what to do with it. Even this. The Epstein stuff is very frustrating because there is no solid conclusion with any of it. I know people are coming to conclusions. I've looked at it, and I don't know what to say. I don't know what the conclusion is. I can't come to a definitive, other than tying Israel to it. I have no definitive conclusion. And that's where everyone wants to talk. Everyone wants to talk about all this other stuff instead of tying Israel to Epstein, which is easy, cut and dry. 2 + 2 = 4. We had a mass shooting in Texas after some dude waited till 1:59 a.m. for, I believe it was a bar, to people coming out of the bar, last call, to shoot up a bar on behalf of his sympathy to Iran. And today, Southwest Flight 2094 was diverted to Atlanta, and a passenger was detained, reportedly over a threat. And we're seeing videos now. And Matt Walsh has a good point. And it's like nobody's talking about it, really. I don't know what's going on, man. Bomb threat on Nashville flight. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the hands down, hands up is. I don't know if it's AI or not. I'm just sharing you what is reported. We can do a little bit more of a deep dive into it. And I'll get that set up and ready to go. But I am playing video. If you're just listening, of passengers in the airplane, what could be more scarier than that? I mean, I've flown quite a bit. I don't have any scare or hesitation of flying. Actually, my kids have flown so much. One night, my kid was like, "Oh, I kind of like flying." Like, okay. But you do anything a lot, you get practice. It's not a problem for you. But there's always that tinge of, oh, could something happen? Or, like a threat or a crash or something like that. There's always a little bit of that in your mind. But there's nothing more scarier than what we're seeing here, videos of people having to put their hands up. And what if you don't have your hands up? It could be a bullet. Who knows? I mean, you got to put your hands up so the SWAT team or whoever's coming on the plane, they know that you're not with whoever they're trying to get. So what if your kids are on the plane? What was the threat? What did he do? What did he say? Well, we'll get into that. I haven't not dug into it. Jeez, that TikTok. I think they need to take that thing off. Certain videos don't need the TikTok splash. I'll tell you that much. So I don't know if it's real or not. I saw Laura Loomer post about it. I haven't seen a lot of talk on it. I went live. I didn't even lead with it. I don't know if I'm just numb to this kind of stuff or what, but there's other angles of video to this as well. Laura Loomer is the first one that I saw with that video, but she just took it from somebody's TikTok, I believe. Yeah, just looks like some random TikTok. But it looks like a guy said "Death to America" or something like that. I'm gonna bomb the plane or something. Like, why would you even say that?
Going to bomb the plane! Bomb the plane! Going to bomb the plane! Death to America! Death to Trump! Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar!
Yeah, there's nothing. Not gonna lie, there's nothing scarier than somebody saying, "I know that's not what it means. It means peace be unto you, brother," or whatever. But if you hear a nigga saying Allahu Akbar, I'm like, oh shit. I'm not gonna lie, man. There's nothing scarier than hearing somebody yell Allahu Akbar in public. Like, oh shit, what's gonna get down? You're like, what's going on? I don't want to hear nobody yelling Allahu Akbar near me, man. I don't want to hear it. Don't even want to hear it.
Bomb the plane! Death to America! Death to Trump! Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar! Oh my God. Sit down.
Yeah, that nigga out of shape too. I'm not gonna lie. Basically, there's that thing where you say you jump on the grenade for the boys. Somebody throws a grenade in the foxhole and one person jumps on it. I mean, you're on the plane. There's no running away from it. So if there's a fatso yelling it, the only concern is he trying to get you to go to him, and then he's got other people go. The brave ones go to the fatso, and then the other ones go somewhere else. But it's a fat, out of shape Middle Eastern yelling Allahu Akbar. Somebody go grab that nigga. Somebody go snatch that nigga. Like there's got to be men on the plane, like, to put the cell phone away, and that's a nice position. I mean, you got to eliminate the threat to me. What the fuck? What are you talking about, my dude?
Going to bomb the plane! Death to America! Death to Trump! Allah Akbar!
Did he say death to Islam?
Going to bomb the plane! Death to America! Death to Trump! Allah Akbar!
The fuck?
Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar! Oh my God.
So the story is, and I'll just end with this. The story here is the Southwest flight was traveling from Nashville to Fort Lauderdale on Friday, March 6th, when it diverted and landed safely at Hartsfield, Jackson, Atlanta, after what Southwest described as a possible security matter. Reporting based on Southwest and airport information places the landing at about 9 p.m. Atlanta police removed one passenger from the aircraft. After landing, the FBI's Atlanta field office later said agents investigated and interviewed the person, found no credible threat, and that no charges will be filed. So what happened? Passengers were moved to another aircraft and continued to Fort Lauderdale, arriving around 3:30 a.m. Officials have not publicly identified the passenger or explained what triggered the diversion. They're keeping their language broad. The phrase bomb threat is circulating in social media. The airline and FBI did not formally confirm that wording. One passenger says someone may have alerted flight attendants after seeing concerning text messages on a removed passenger's phone. That remains secondhand passenger account. So maybe that's why it didn't blow up. It's a lot of ambiguous, like, hearsay and second hand knowledge on it. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, either way, just absolutely scary. When you're on the plane, obviously you don't know what the hell's going on. So people could be on edge too. You see a brown, you see a Middle Eastern brown, and who knows, what they're chatting about or whatever, and you're like, wait a second, I don't know. So that's where we could be at. I don't know. Everybody enjoy the rest of your Saturday afternoon. I really wanted to go live to talk about the water. I was like, I just went live about the water. Then Qeshm Island, right off the coast there of Iran, the desalination plant got attacked literally right after we were talking about Professor Jang. So had to go live again, had some time. So everyone take care. Peace. Index Red.